Across Ireland generally, we're all well aware that from the mid-1980s up until about 2006, there's a very strong investment from Brussels in the Irish economy, and large programmes, particularly like the European Regional Development Fund, would be recognised as one of the primary instruments that Brussels used to develop the Irish economy. We see it, of course, in the infrastructure and so on, on the roads and on the broadband. We see all these facilities growing. They're the obvious manifestations of it. Some of the less obvious manifestations might be the investment in people or the investment in human capital. And I think it's always important to remember a balance between physical capital in the country and the human capital, the people in Ireland. And in an industry like ours, in tourism, the entire tourism experience, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, the entire experience is mediated by people. The people that the visitor encounters, whether it's behind a bar, at a restaurant, at a reception desk, a tour guide, whoever it is, people mediate that experience, that the filter that the visitor has to work through. So therefore, investment in people is enormously important. And through the European Regional Development Fund and through the human capital component of that, over the 2 decades, between the 80s up until quite recently, there's been a very strong investment in education and training in tourism, and in support for the building of facilities in colleges and the Institutes of Technology. And for example, as a consequence of that support over 2 decades, we've been building up a programme where now we work with 10 Institutes of Technology around the country in providing further and higher education for Irish people joining the tourism industry. 7.5 million people came into Ireland, overseas visitors, so 7.5 million visitors from outside of the country. They spent €4.8 billion in 2008, so that's an injection into the Irish economy, a net injection of €4.8 billion, which is an export, essentially. In tourism as a whole, it accounts for about 3.5% of GDP. It's Irish largest indigenous industry. The largest indigenous industry sector. It employs about 200,000 people. So it's 200,000. Significantly also, because of the nature of tourism, unlike, say, financial services, which might be clustered in a certain area, tourism is an industry of every parish. That's the nature of the business. People want to go out and explore Ireland. So tourism isn't concentrated in the IFSC or in one part of Cork or Dublin. It's diffused across the country. And the consequence of that in turn is that 7.5 million people coming along, spending their €4.8 billion, are outspending that in every town and parish in Ireland. So there's a very strong regional or spatial spread dimension to tourism. And it's something that we in Fáilte Ireland are very mindful of, particularly again with an eye to our European visitors who we know want that experiential dimension to their visit to Ireland. They don't want to stay in Dublin. They'll visit Dublin and enjoy that, but they want to get out and see other aspects of Ireland. The consequence of all of that is that tourism has a unique capacity to generate economic activity and to sustain jobs in rural communities and small towns across the country. So that's one of the reasons why it's particularly important.